Hi everyone, good morning. Friday morning here, August 13th. I guess that makes it Friday the 13th. I didn't realize that. Um, how are you all? We're in Judges again today and we're talking about Samson. We'll be doing this today and tomorrow as we finish up on Samson's life, one of the judges. Samson was, as we said yesterday, such a peculiar guy. Just not the guy that you would think that would be one of Israel's leaders, but he did lead them for 20 years. Good morning, Melissa. And he made some bad choices, and we're going to read about that today. And we're going to see more of what it's like to be a follower of God, making good and bad choices, leaning on God, and then falling deeply into sin. Yeah, it's all in the Bible. All these things are in the Bible, so there's really nothing outside of the scope of God's grace when it comes to us, our lives and what we've been through, what we're doing, what we've done. He's seen it all, hasn't he? All right, let's start in verse 1 of chapter 16, Samson in Gaza. One day Samson went to Gaza, a Philistine town. Here we are with the Philistines again, and slept with a prostitute. So here's his moral failure. Here's the guy that's representing God sleeping with the prostitute. Some say that down in the notes it says his moral failure outweighed his physical strength, and he had physical strength like no other man we've ever seen. He was a mighty deliverer, but he was riddled with compromise. And so I guess that's the word I need to use, is that here's this mighty leader and fearfully strong man, but compromising along the way as he goes. Well, word soon spread that Samson was in town, so the men of Gaza gathered and hid at the town gates, cutting off his escape. They're still trying to capture him. And they made no move during the night, saying, "We'll kill him at dawn when he tries to leave." But in the middle of the night, Samson got up and left. On his way out of Gaza, he took hold of the doors of the town gate and ripped them off their hinges. Just thought he'd just rip the doors off as he leaves in the middle of the night. How could people not hear this? That's what I want to know. 2 posts, the gates, and the locking bar. He hoisted them all on his shoulders, and he carried them off a great distance to the top of the hill across from Hebron. So in the notes it says this was a superhuman feat, to say the least. Samson carried the heavy gates, which were most likely 2 stories high. Come on, it's hard to just carry a normal door. And he carried two of them that were 2 stories high, and the heavy posts that were securing them uphill to a location that was nearly 40 miles away. So wherever you're living right now, I want you to think about walking for 40 miles with 2 two-story doors, the posts and the lock. I don't think we'd get down the street, much less 40 miles. Samson's offering to God in the high place was not an animal, but the gates of a city. So he was offering them to God. A supernatural infusion of strength came upon Samson. And the notes say, "Let everyone who's weak say they are strong." And we can have a natural infusion of strength like Samson, whatever we need today. So here he goes up this hill and offers these doors, these gates, after he's escaped. Then, a little bit later, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah from the Sorek Valley. The rulers of the Philistines went to her with a plan. Delilah's name means enfeebling or weakening or languishing. The rulers of the Philistines went to her with a plan, trick Samson into trick or treat. That's what came into my head, sorry. Trick Samson into telling you the secret of his great strength. find out how we can subdue him. We'll tie him up and make him helpless. Then each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So she was seeing money now. So Delilah approached Samson and asked, "Please, dear, won't you tell me the secret of your strength and how you could be tied up and be made helpless?" Remember, he took a Nazirite vow, and there were a few things that he wasn't allowed to do. He wasn't allowed to touch anything unclean, he wasn't allowed to drink alcohol, and he was never allowed to cut his hair. Some people think probably his hair looked matted by now, and it was long and maybe not so clean looking. It wasn't like the flowing, beautiful, washed hair we might think of. I don't know. But he'd already violated 2 of the Nazirite vows, and the only thing left now was that he had his long hair still. And she said, "Tell me, what would be the secret of your strength, and how you could be tied up and made helpless?" And Samson replied, "If someone bound me with 7 new bowstrings that haven't been dried, I'll become as weak as an ordinary man." He was just playing with her. He was in bondage. He was like, he should have known what was going on from the very first inquiry. Why would he even entertain these questions, is what I want to know. So the Philistine tyrants brought Delilah 7 new bowstrings, and she tied Samson up with them. With men waiting in ambush in one of the inner rooms of her house, she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines are here to capture you." But Samson snapped the bowstrings like a piece of string snaps when it is burned by a fire. So no one discovered the secret of his strength. So, that wasn't the truth. They were playing games, and he still engages her. Afterward, Delilah said to him, "You've made fun of me and told me lies. Please tell me how you can be tied up secretly." Securely. Samson replied, "If someone bound me with brand new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as anyone else." Well, here he goes again, telling her something that's not true. So Delilah took new ropes and tied him up with them, and he lets her. What is he doing? And the men were waiting in ambush in the inner room as before, and Delilah cried out, "Samson, the Philistines are here to capture you." Once again, Samson easily snapped the ropes from his arms like they were threads. So Delilah reprimands him, and she says, "You've made a fool of me and lied to me again. Now tell me the truth. How can you be tied up?" This is like the ultimate unhealthy relationship, This is like, there's no love in this relationship. This is just bondage. This is kind of sick. So Samson replied, "If you weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric of your loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become as weak as anyone else." I'm as mad at him as I am at her, the way that he's responding to her. So while he slept, Delilah wove the 7 braids of his hair into the fabric and pinned it with a peg. Again she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines are here to capture you." But Samson woke up and yanked his hair from both the loom and the fabric. So one thing about relationships we know is there has to be like mutual respect. Like just from the get-go, I respect you with everything in me and you respect me with everything in me. And that means we never lie to each other. We never speak things that are not the truth. We speak from our hearts, and we help each other, and we cover each other, and we're for each other. This is like craziness right here. This is so dysfunctional. Here she goes again, pouting to him, saying, "How can you say I love you, and yet you don't tell me your secrets? You've tricked me 3 times now, and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong." She was tormenting him day and night, it says here, until he was sick to death of her nagging. He is getting what he wants from her, sleeping with her, it's just so weird. And then she's got this hope of all this silver that is going to be like, I think it says in the notes, it's like 40 pounds of silver, or maybe I read that in another, yeah, I read that in a commentary. So she's just got riches on her mind. She's just thinking, how can I become rich? And no, no standards here. No, I mean, it's just like taking bribes. We know all about this from politics, how politicians take bribes and have special interest groups and, you know, big, huge companies that will sponsor them for the win, you know, and like there's no integrity in all this. And here is this demonstration of this woman who's just like nagging to death Samson to get what she wants. Finally, he breaks down and confesses to her everything. Samson, come on. I've never had my hair cut, he says, because my parents dedicated me to God from birth. If anyone cuts my hair, my power will leave me and I'll become as weak as anyone else. I don't know, maybe Samson was living out his parents' faith. You know, maybe it really wasn't his own ever. I'm not his judge, but I just think, and he is in the hall of faith, so God sees so much clearer than we do, but he was a weak guy. And then Delilah realized she had finally disclosed his secret, and she sent for the Philistine rulers, and she said, come quickly, he's finally told me his secret. So the Philistine rulers returned with the bribe money in their hands. They knew it was this was it. They were going to get him this time. And Delilah lulled Samson to sleep with his head in her lap. You know, how cozy. His head was in her lap. She lulled him to sleep. And then she called in a barber, and that barber cut off his 7 locks. Maybe dreadlocks by this time. In this way she weakened him, and his strength drained from him. All that supernatural, incredible strength that God gave him just went right out of him, because it wasn't the hair itself that had the power, it was the vow. It was the commitment to God that he'd made. It was the covenant. And then she cried out, Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you. He woke up and thought, I'll do the same as before and shake myself free. But he didn't realize that Yahweh had turned away from him. So the Philistines captured him, and he lost his eyes. They gouged them out. It was so gross. They took his eyesight. They took him down to Gaza, where they bound him with bronze chains, and they forced him to grind grain in the prison. Oh my goodness. Let us not sell out. Lord, preserve our eyesight. Preserve the supernatural ability that you've given us to see into your kingdom, into your plans, into your will. Keep us on track with you. Keep us in our covenant with you. Lord, we just ask that the power and the strength that we do have in you, Lord God, would continue all the days of our life, and cut off the things from us that would cause us to compromise. Come into those areas where we would compromise. The last sentence we're going to read today is the cliffhanger. Before long, his hair began to grow back. Here he is in prison, and his hair starts growing back. What does that mean? Does that mean that what he had is going to come back? We'll have to wait and see tomorrow. All right, so that's the first part of chapter 16. We'll finish chapter 16 tomorrow. I was so glad to see you, Melissa, and anyone else that jumps on here today. Leave me a little hello if you want, or a comment about what you might have gained from this portion. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.